Welcome to Unscripted, Believe at Noon, the podcast on Noon Miracle, where we sit down for real conversations that reveal the miracle in all of us. I'm your host, Amy Goldberg, joined by my amazing co-host, Violet Fink, and today we're excited to welcome our guest, Taalrumiq. Each episode, we get to know someone new, not just by what they do, but who they are, by simply talking and listening. It's all about connection, curiosity, and discovering the magic that lives in all of us. So let's dive in. This is Believe at Noon. Welcome to Believe at Noon. We are so grateful that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Thank you. And where are you zooming in from?
I live in Terrace, northern British Columbia, on the traditional unceded territory of the Tsimshian, but I'm originally from Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories on the Arctic Ocean coast.
Wow. And where did your incredible design and creativity come from?
Well, I think that they are gifts that I was born with, and I feel very fortunate to come from a long line of Inuit seamstresses, like my matrilineal line. As far back as we have written records, all of my mother, my grandmothers, my great grandmothers were excellent seamstresses. They had to do this to survive in the Arctic. So here I am in today's time, being able to present my work as art and high fashion. And yeah, I'm really grateful to come from the background that I have. And, it deeply influences my work.
And I don't know, Violet, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to watch this, but North of North is a new series, and it's from Canada. And it is fabulous. It's hilarious. I love it. I'm hooked on it. I'm waiting for the next season. How did they approach you and present your stunning work, your earrings, your clothing? I mean, they're just breathtaking.
Well, I sort of had an idea that it was going to be for a TV show. It was actually like a production company that reached out and put in an order of some of my accessories, including earrings and fur mittens. And so I sent it out knowing that it was going to be for something exciting. And then I got the contract. I had to sign an NDA and, not say anything. So it was really a big surprise when I actually saw my work on a few different episodes. And yeah, it's amazing to be, to have a small part in this amazing production, telling Inuit stories in a contemporary way. And yeah, just thrilled to be part of it.
From the time that you
that's
signed the
incredible.
NDA to the time that you were on, like you saw your work, did you know that you were going to see your work?
I kind of had an idea it was for this specific production, but things change fast. Sometimes they purchase your work, sometimes it doesn't make it on there. But I was just excited to watch because I'm a big fan, of all the actors, and I'd followed the producers on social media because Inuit supporting other Inuit. So I was just happy to watch this, and it was just a wonderful surprise to see my work on there.
That's
Oh, amazing. Did they give you any sort of requests that they wanted you to fulfill, or did they just say we'd like these pieces that you already have listed? Like, did you create them specifically for purpose, or?
Well, how it came about was I'm one of the artists on a supported platform. So there's a bunch of Indigenous artists who work with sealskin, and I just list my products on there. That way it removes the barrier for me to manage my own website. So all the products I had listed on there, I guess they just went shopping and picked what they like. And lucky for me, I had some exciting pieces on there.
And did they
Oh,
ask for
amazing.
specific, like the clothing? The clothing is yours as well?
No, I wasn't, I did not provide clothing. Those were, I believe, mainly Nunavummiut designers, so designers from the Nunavut territory. Yeah, so it's just my accessories, but who knows what the future holds? Maybe they'd like some
Exactly. Well,
Western
the gloves
Arctic
are
garments.
gorgeous. I mean, they're stunning. And your earrings, I mean, they're just so, I mean, they're handcrafted. They actually are a character in
Yeah.
the series, you know?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Like you can do so much with earrings, something that seems so simple, but it's really a great creative outlet and to experiment with different materials and using like beadwork to accentuate the sealskin, one of our traditional materials. And yeah, I'm really proud of my seal heart rainbow earrings. That's a design I
Yes.
created when I was a young girl, and it's nice to see the evolution. And now they're on TV, they're on Netflix, for the world to see. So that's really amazing.
Wow.
That's incredible. Did you grow up with your mum learning to sew, and was that what inspired you, or did you sort of find your own calling a little bit later on?
Well, my earliest memories are of wanting to sew. So my mom made me a little sewing kit. I think I was about 4 years old. So that's one of my earliest memories. She was always sewing. All the women in my community, my aunties, my grandmother had this big sewing room. She made a living, a modest living selling her work. So I've always been around it. And I learned a lot of the traditional basic sewing skills from my mom, like how to work with fur, how to scrape it, how to stretch it, and how to cut along the fur grain line. But as a young adult, I also went to university where I did a human ecology degree, and that's where I did my fashion design training and learned the more technical aspects of garment production.
Mm,
Wow. And then
amazing.
your fashion is, I mean, fashion can be a very powerful storyteller.
Mhm.
What story are you trying to tell in the work that you're doing in the designs of your clothing? Because I know you've had fashion shows.
There's a lot of different stories that I'm telling through my work. Every garment has a story of its own, but the main themes that show in the work that I create are that Inuit are still here, that we're a contemporary people. There's a lot of misconception that we're in the past or that we're extinct. So there was a lot of educating around that. And also our traditional materials. We live in a very, anti-fur, like pro-fake fur, vegan leather type of world, which is very contrary to our cultural beliefs and values and what's practical for survival. So even today in the Arctic, we rely on natural resources such as fur-bearing animals for survival. It's just absolutely necessary. So a lot of my work is educating about the use of our traditional materials like fur and other organic materials. And I understand, some people will be wary and because of the aspect of using animal products because they're so cute and fluffy. But our cultural protocols ensure that these processes are done with respect. We thank the animal for its life, for providing, its body and its fur for us to survive. And part of our values are not to waste or to utilize all parts of the animal. And these are values that we see continued today. And even me, like my mom will keep, for example, like swan wing bones and caribou hooves. She'll clean them and send them to me to use in my artwork. So yeah, we still live our cultural values, but we're also contemporary.
I love that.
That's brilliant. I also think probably a lot of the reason that people are against fur and are for vegan leather and all of that is because of the waste that's inherent to using those materials on, large scale quantities. But if you're using the whole thing, then and also you're respecting the animal as it's going through this process of giving up its body for art and for food and sustenance and all of that. I think it's a wonderful way of doing it. I am still curious about the storytelling aspect. Is there a piece that you've created that you feel tells a story that's really personal to you?
Yes, I'm just thinking of when I presented my collection in 2023 at Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week. It was on Red Dress Night. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Indigenous women in Canada go missing and are murdered at a higher rate than any other segment of the population. So to create a red dress calls attention to this issue in Canada. And I was also able to highlight the story of my cousin Frank Rubin, who went missing. He was a two-spirit, very vibrant young man, and he just disappeared, and there's no trace. And his family and the communities that he belonged to, we all grieved. They now have laid him to rest, but his body has still never been recovered. So just taking his story and wanting to bring awareness and to highlight, that this is real, that's happening now, and it affects all of us. I was able to create a red dress and also incorporate traditional Inuvialuit materials such as wolf fur and wolverine. And I just thought it was a really powerful way to use fashion for an important cause and to honor the memory of my cousin Frank.
That's beautiful. And when you're doing your fashion shows, do you tell the story?
Um, well,
We
we
have a
don't.
certain amount of time.
Yeah, we only have a certain amount of time. During the fashion show, the clothing has to speak for itself. And then it's later on when I post pictures to my socials that I'm able to kind of tell a bit more. And then on platforms such as this or, other interviews, I'm able to talk about the meaning behind the fashion pieces that I'm creating.
I love that. And especially, Violet and her mother, Jane Sibbett, created Noon Miracle, and we're part of Noon Miracle. And, it would be absolutely wonderful to share your work within the community, to record a little piece and show as a matter of fact, tell the story of the piece, and
Mhm.
record it so that the world can see it. Because I think that's so important.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. I'd love to
We
do
would
that.
we would love if you wanted to share your stories on New Miracle. It's a perfect opportunity to give them just the whole space that they deserve. Because I know that in a show, you only have a finite amount of time.
Right. Yeah, and I just want to say too, like the impact of storytelling through fashion. I didn't realize what an impact it can have or how many people it will reach. And so sometimes I get these really beautiful messages of people who just felt so uplifted or inspired, or they felt seen and represented through my fashion. And that's really meaningful for me. And, it's a big part of why I continue to create.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
too, your designs, you go back to the gorgeous fabrics. My family were seamstress way, 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 way back, and the intricacy of the stitch and the gorgeous clothes that have held. I've had clothes for 30 years that are still look
Hmm.
brand new, and we lose that now. So you going back to the handmade, carefully created pieces are gorgeous. How do
Yeah.
more people see your work? Like, how do you get out there? How do you get funded? What does that look like for you?
Well, that's one of the points that I use when I educate about fur and the pieces that I create. This is not fast fashion. This is slow fashion. It's intentional. The pieces I make are built to last and can be handed down throughout the generations. And that's typically what we do in our culture with our fur clothing and our parkas, our mittens, hats, mucklucks. Once you outgrow them, they go on to the next person who they can fit and keep warm. And so that's one of the main points of the clothing that I create. And I've mainly been bootstrapping my own business, like just paying for my own supplies and materials. I have had support from the Inuit Art Foundation to purchase supplies and materials, which I greatly appreciate because they know the struggles that Inuit artists face. So they're very supportive. And of course, I do thrift a lot of my materials. So a lot of the fabric, I love thrifting, finding used leathers, old leather coats, old fur coats, other unique materials, and to repurpose it to give it that new life. And that's also in line with our cultural values.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there a material that you prefer working with?
I love sealskin. It's one of my favorite materials. It's an important traditional material, and I love fox and wolf furs as well. And then
Mm.
after the furs, I love leathers. So I love finding old leather jackets at thrift shops where I can repurpose them. You only have a certain amount, so got to be really creative in how you're going to use it.
And what do you hope for with your, do you hope to travel with your designs? How do you want to get out there?
Well, that's what I've been working on. I've used social media to really share my work. And to my great surprise, I ended up with this global audience who are interested in the work I'm creating, which I totally didn't expect. It seems like my work is very niche. Um, and then originally I thought that my customers were going to be other Inuit, but not really, because they all know how to sew and create their own garments and accessories. So yeah, I'm just hoping that I can break into the mainstream. And, part of it is educating. People are worried about cultural appropriation. Is it okay for them to wear the pieces I create? And I always say that anything I make to sell is not sacred or secret or closed. It's open to everyone to wear. Like, for example, the earrings made with traditional materials. Everyone is welcome to purchase and wear them. So yeah, I would love to travel the world. I have dreams of presenting fashion collections in New York, Milan, Paris, London. So we'll see if I ever get there. Cost is always a barrier, but I know that if I just keep creating the clothing that I love and keep posting, the opportunities are going to come one way or another. I mentioned that I'm on a supported platform. It's called proudlyindigenouscrafts.com. So that's a joint venture between the government of the Northwest Territories, the government of Nunavut, and the Fur Institute of Canada, where they came together to create this platform to highlight Indigenous artists who work with sealskin. So to really support us and highlight seal as one of Canada's natural resources. So they provide a lot of education, as well as oh, I'm losing my words here, as well as a platform for us to sell. So I'm one of the artists on this platform, and that's where I list all my pieces for sale. However, this summer I have paused my store just because life is so busy. I'm also a first-year master's student, so I'm getting ready to head to Vancouver to do my month-long residency on campus.
Wow, what are you
And
taking? What's your master's in?
well, I'm doing a Master of Fine Art at Emily Carr University of Art and
Fantastic.
Design.
Wow.
And my
Wow,
research
brilliant.
area is Inuvialuit fashion, so my ancestral fashion. Yeah.
And what
That's
do you
amazing.
hope, where do you want to I mean, if anything, it doesn't matter, you're learning, but where do you want to take that? Do you want to
Well,
teach? I'm just
yeah, I do actually have my Bachelor of Education. So my original plan was to be a high school teacher. I wanted to teach home ec and fine art because I didn't believe that it was possible for someone like me to have a career as a designer. I just didn't see anyone else like me in these spaces. But things have changed now. There's more recognition and more opportunities for Indigenous designers and artists. So I'm really thankful for that. But maybe I can draw upon my Bachelor of Education, and once I complete my master's, I'm hoping that maybe I can teach or be in a position to offer mentorship, but I also want to keep going, creating art and fashion.
Yeah, I think mentorship is such a great idea because, as you say, if you're looking around the industry and you're not seeing anyone who looks like you and you are the one breaking into that space, imagine how many other people you can inspire just by continuing to do what you're doing.
Well,
I
yeah,
think,
and I feel like my opportunities came a little later in life, in my 40s. But I know there's so much talent out there, and if
mm,
we can reach, these artists and designers when they're younger, and then they have, the rest of their life, and they won't be scared to chase their dreams and goals.
it's so
They can
true.
do it.
It's so true. And so what does believing in yourself mean to you today? Like, well, how has that belief kind of evolved over the course of your kind of your creative and personal journey?
Believing in yourself is just, being yourself, first of all. Doing things when you're scared, even when you're scared, just getting it done. Having courage to just put yourself out there, apply for those opportunities, and just knowing that, you are here for a greater purpose. And if you feel very strongly or passionately about creating and design, then just keep doing it and the opportunities will come.
I love that.
mm.
Wow. And I want to ask you, what advice would you give younger Indigenous creatives, like who want to step into fashion or design, but they just don't know where to start or how to hold their cultural voice? Like, I think that's the most important piece to that. How did you
Mhm.
you keep your authenticity?
Um, I would say, what what are you doing every day to get you closer to your goal? First of all, you don't need anyone's permission to, to start. I think a lot of times we, having gone through a lot of intergenerational trauma and everything, we feel like we don't have a right to step into our power, to be great or to be good at something. So we don't need anyone's permission to start. And then everything you're doing every day, these small steps are going to bring you closer to your goal or further. So you got to start thinking as if you're already an established designer. What would they be doing? Are they going to be scrolling on social media all day, watching Netflix, or they're going to try out this new pattern and perfect, this technique? So it's just all these little choices that will push you toward your goal and really prepare you for when those opportunities come so that you're ready.
Wow.
I'm inspired.
I know Violet is an actor, and she has a publishing company, a book publishing company, and
Oh,
has just
wow.
started. And so it's that same creative space where you just need this community to
Hmm.
help, you know? It's
Yeah.
Violet, do you feel the same sort of it's just like just do something every single day because you're in
Yeah,
such a
no, definitely. And I think, as we've spoken about before, if there's something that you really love doing, sometimes it can take a lot out of you to do it all the time. But if
Mhm.
you're always making a little bit of time for it every day, it actually does just help keep fueling that fire, and it keeps you inspired, and it keeps you uplifted, and it keeps you in contact with the people who continue to support you and push you along.
Mhm.
Have you found that there's been, because I know you're on a platform that is specific to Indigenous designers, and people working with sealskin. Do you find that there's a lot of communication between all of the people who are creating on there? Is it a creative and collaborative space, or is it
To
just a
some
platform?
extent, yeah, to some extent, like we had a cohort of us attend an international Indigenous tourism conference where we were selling our work at an in-person market. So it's opportunities like that where we have a chance to connect and meet in person and support each other.
Mm.
And that continues afterwards, supporting each other on our socials. And I found at other Indigenous fashion events, just meeting other designers, other artists, other creatives, I've never felt so supported just and accepted just to be myself, and just I feel seen and I feel loved. And, there's not a lot of like competition because we are all on this path together. And even if we have the same cultural background or we're using the same materials, we're all creating something different. So there's
Mm.
no need to compete. Like, we're all helping each other along the way. And again, that goes back to our cultural values.
exactly. When one person succeeds, we all do. We
Hmm.
all bring ourselves together to make something happen.
And
You
there's
know,
space for all of us, there's
yeah,
space for more than one, more than two, like for all of us.
Yeah.
exactly. And so
A
with
rising tide
school,
lifts all boats.
yes, exactly. With school, I know our time is almost up. What do you hope for? Like what's your desire?
Well, I had these very grand research plans, but I learned very fast that a master's degree program, 2 years is not a whole lot of time. So I've done a good chunk of research and writing of my interim thesis. And my end goal now, like I've had to really whittle down my grand plans, but I'm going to create like sort of like a glossary or compendium of our Inuvialuit language terms and
Wow.
terminology related to sewing and materials. And my thinking is I just want to create a resource, whether that's a book or maybe like a blog post that has all this information for other Inuvialuit, other Inuit designers and artists, so that we remember, it's important to document our language and have these descriptions of our sewing terminology from our elders while the traditional knowledge is still alive, and so that it's not lost. Because I know when I first started out, I didn't know where to find this information. So I'm just hoping that this is a small step forward to kind of gather some core information that will maybe something bigger can come from that or help other artists and designers like me.
Wow. I
That's
heard
amazing.
book. Did you hear that? Ding, ding, ding.
Hello,
I
book.
mean, seriously.
Well, and in addition to my research and writing, I have to create produce a creative body of work. So I'm
Mm,
creating fashion based on my ancestral clothing. So just taking the silhouettes and the materials, but going beyond tradition, bringing it into today and into the future. So my interpretation, my vision of what is Inuvialuit fashion.
Wow. I love it.
wow.
And I love the story
What
behind it.
what was your big grand design that you had to whittle down? Was it like a more complete compendium or?
Yeah, I just thought that I would be able to delve deep into all these historical records and archives of different museums to get, all these images of our clothing and interview other Inuvialuit, but that's a lot of work in such a short amount of time. And the
Mm,
first year, we've really been just learning how to research, how to properly source our, references and experimenting with the work we want to create. And then the second year is like kind of finalizing our research and doing our final creative projects.
right, okay. And is
Yes.
there a piece that you know already you're going to be creating that you're really excited for?
Yes, the plans are preliminary, but I'm hoping to create something around like the women in our community at various stages in life, and then just focusing on our leadership, our skills, the power and strength of being an Inuvialuit woman.
Wow,
Mm.
you're remarkable. I am so grateful that
Oh.
you came on our podcast today. And I want to ask you, how can people reach you?
I'm on all social media at Taalrumiq, Taalrumiq. You can
Wonderful.
find me on all social media platforms. I do have a website. It's under construction. It's hard
Yay.
for me to do everything, but yep, social media is probably the best.
Do you ship worldwide?
There are restrictions on where we can ship sealskin,
Oh, yes.
just because there's a ban in certain countries and the European Union. But because as an Indigenous artist, we can ship, but there's different rules. It'll show up when you try to check out if it can ship to your country or not.
Wonderful. And thank you for sharing the story because it is a powerful one. I think we lose sight of this idea of um, you know, fake fur. And I mean, we're so locked into this mentality without the story behind it and without the
Mhm.
cultural aspect of something. And it hurts, because there's so many, there is no one side of something, you know?
Right. And I just want to say too, like fake fur won't biodegrade, our natural materials at the end of their life cycle, they're going to go back into the earth as it's meant to.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful point. Wonderful. Grateful for you. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank
Thank you
you. I'm
so much.
happy to be here.
Thank you.